I was scrolling on Instagram, which, yes, it was Instagram that connected us. Those things can work sometimes. I mean, if you're smart with it, I used to have a rule. It was always end a conversation early.
There's so many like God winks within leading us to that moment. And then I think really become evident in this part of the story. Just something about like putting it on paper and like presenting this to God. And I think some people have such a hard time getting things out of their head and out of their heart and getting to a faith aspect.
I almost didn't reach out to you because you had...
Welcome back to the Dear Future Husband podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and today I am joined with the man of the podcast, if I can say so, Arden Bevere, my husband.
Definitely your husband. I don't know.
Definitely my husband.
Man of the podcast.
You are. You're the most reoccurring man on here.
That's actually true.
You're the voice to,
Yes.
You're like the guy friend to all of our people watching. And because we've become so acquainted with all of the community here, the question keeps coming up with, well, how did y'all meet? And I know we've shared a little bit, some glimpses here and there, but people are saying, no, we want like the whole story. So today I brought on my husband to help me share all those details from 7 years ago.
7 years ago,
2018.
which I mean, it only makes sense too, since the whole story, of course, started with me and me reaching out. But
That's true.
It was
So
7 years ago.
You just share the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to share the whole thing? Go through
I'll
it?
help you a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it was 7 years ago. It was right before summertime. It was April when I first reached out to you. And it was funny because I was on...
March.
It was
March
March.
1st,
That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. It was April when we first finally got to go on a date. But I reached out to you because what happened was I was on a ministry trip at a church. And I remember I was behind the scenes and I was back in it. It was actually a pop-up church. And so they had a little trailer that was outside. And so I was waiting for my chance to be able to run the slides and do everything. And I was scrolling on Instagram, which, yes, it was Instagram that connected us. Those things can work sometimes. I mean, if you're smart with it. And I remember seeing a picture of you that was posted by a friend of mine. And you guys were on a boat. And
My side of the story of that to come in a second.
Yes, you were on a boat, and I just remember like instantly being like, oh my goodness, this girl's beautiful. And I reached out to one of my friends and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, should I slide into the DM? I was like, I don't want to be that guy that's sliding into the DM. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And he was like, yeah, I don't know too. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll give it like, I think I said a week. And I think I've gone back and forth on whether it was a week or 24 hours, but I think it actually was a week. And I was like, I'll give it a week because if it's a good idea now, it will be a good idea 7 days from now. And to my, not my shame, but to my surprise and my relief. Yes, I didn't make it a week. I made it about 3 days. And I ended up reaching out to you or started following you. Or did I start? I think I started following you before that.
It was all like within the same 24 hours.
I started following you first, and then I didn't reach out. And then about 3 days later, I sent you a DM, and I reached out. I mean...
And then I think we should maybe pause right there and then play catch up on where I was at this moment.
Yeah, of course.
So I was at a place of graduated college, thought I'd be going to like the big hotshot job in New York or California, moved back home to Alabama, where I'm like, this is great. I'm not going to meet anyone here. My prospects are zero, which maybe you can relate to. And I just thought, Lord, I really want you to guide me through this time of singleness. There's whole other videos there if you want to hear more of that season. But I came to this point where I had been praying for my future husband in my husband's Bible and just saying, Lord, you're going to have to show me something that I don't think exists here or ignite a way that I can't see. And so I befriend my friend MP, which you've heard about if you've been following for any amount of time. We love Mary Payne. She's very much part of my husband's Bible story, but she moved away. So I was like, cool, lost my one friend here, no boyfriend. That's fine. Jesus, you're doing something. I'm going to trust it. And went to visit her up in Birmingham, Alabama. And she's like, hey, my one friend has to stop by real quick. I was like, okay, cool, great. Meet this girl briefly. She ends up, maybe a month later, coming down to where I live. And so we randomly hung out, go on a boat. I don't just have a boat. I didn't have a following. None of the things where you're like, oh, she must have been like all these things for art to find her page. No, it's so still miraculously to me that you even came across a photo of me. And the photo she took, I was like, hey, girl to girl, I don't look good in that photo. So can we delete it? And I'm so glad she didn't, because that was a photo you saw. So, the next time that you're not feeling confident, just keep confidence, because it could be the photo that your future husband finds.
Yeah, which I was gonna say, because onto that, because you said you were out of a relationship. I think you said that, but I remember, and just maybe a thought that I'd like you to actually explain to people is, I remember before I reached out to you, I almost didn't reach out to you because you had pictures of your ex-boyfriend still up on your profile. And even though it was like, it's a little bit further down, like it wasn't, it wasn't like I had to go, I wasn't stalking and going a year back or something like that, but it was like still pretty recent. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh man, I'm definitely not going to reach out to a girl if she's dating someone and I can't visibly see if she's still dating this person, or if it's just, she hasn't posted about him in a while, or if it's just they broke up and there's nothing there. So, I mean, your reasoning for keeping ex photos, because I think there's probably a lot of girls that will do that. Yeah. And they'll keep their past relationship photos still on their social media.
It's such an interesting thing with the social media world, because we largely, we got it in high school. So we kind of were the guinea pigs of Instagram and things like that. I kept the photos up because I feel like in high school, whenever you deleted all the photos, it was like, oh, he's the worst. It's such a toxic breakup. And he was honestly a great guy. We just didn't work out. I on my own end, I was like, I need to grow some more. So I kept the photos up because I didn't want people to think, oh, he was a bad guy, so she's deleting all the photos, toxic drama. Because it was great. Dated someone for 2 years. That was an amazing person, but just wasn't. We weren't meant to be together. So that's why I kept him up, because I was like, oh, we served in church together. He's amazing. I don't want anyone to think, he's the problem.
And so, I think what we talked about whether
that's right or wrong, I don't know. But that was my reasoning.
Well, and I remember we talked about that a few weeks into us dating. But I mean, I know obviously I'm skipping ahead, but going back a little bit, I sent you that message 3 days later, said something about the weather, which... Was a lie. Yes, I know to this one is to my shame, is that I did start our first conversation off with a lie. To me, I'm living in Colorado at the time, and we did just go through a snowstorm a week prior, and it was May time, it was March time. And I remember I just thought, oh, hey, it's beautiful there. It's snowing here. And that was my kind of jump into there, not the best way.
Which I'm trying to remember what I even said, because I think for a moment I was like,
yeah. Cool. You're like, why are you
good for me
about the weather? I was trying to ease into there and just comment on something, but
when you came into when you did slide into the DMs, and then I saw your message come through, which granted, I didn't know who he was at this point. I had heard of Lisa Bevere. I'd seen some of her sermons, probably a year before. And I was like, whoa, that woman has grit. I've never heard things like how she shares, but didn't do the deep dive of oh, she has all these sons and I'm going to marry that one. Didn't even know who your dad was. But when I saw your page, I was like, I don't know this person. Good posts going on, and then I realized your mom was like, oh, so this is someone that comes from a really good family that is strong in their faith. I threw my phone in the back of the car and I said, Jesus, I need you to level with me, because we've been on this journey of you healing me of so much. I don't want to just get into another relationship, and I don't want to hurt anyone, especially someone that's a believer in all these things. So I really need you to make this clear if we're to proceed. And honestly, this is my future husband, because I just don't want to date again unless it is my husband. And that's not legalistic. I won't even get coffee with you, but I won't get feelings involved until you give me a green light. Yeah. So you met it with this really cautiousness of not being the typical too casual, but you weren't over the top. But I did have some stakes in the ground of okay, Lord, I really need you to show me on this.
Yeah. And I think that's why I came in so casual, the weather, because I wasn't trying to be hey, you're so beautiful. I would love to get coffee with you sometime. And really show right off the gate, jump this big gap that's needing to be created. But I was trying to get a simple like introduction of like, maybe we can start a conversation. Let's see how we engage a little bit over back and forth on messaging, and then we can go from there. But I remember I sent you that message, and then I think I like quickly ended that conversation. And then I reached out again.
He wasn't interested.
Yeah, no. No, I have a rule. I used to have a rule. It was always end a conversation early. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing is like, it's always, you always want to leave the person like I'm that kind of person where it's like someone texts me, hey, how you doing? Like, or how are you? I'm like, it's the most boring conversation over text. I'm like, I don't want you to do that. I'd rather you call me and talk to me really quick. But you want to avoid your conversations getting to that point. I remember that when I was in dating period is like avoided the conversation ever getting to the point where it was like, we've run out of things to talk about. So what are you doing now? Or what are you up to? What have you been up to the last hour? Like, where it just feels bland and boring. And so I remember I ended the conversation. Then I think it waited a couple days and I reached back out and I was like, I wanted to see if maybe I can drive over or something like that and we can have a coffee. And then you gave me your number and I told you, I remember I told you, I said, when I asked for your number, I said, I will not text you or DM you anymore. I will only call you from this point on until we actually meet in person.
Okay.
Yes, because I want you to know like I'm a real person. And then also like a big mistake that I think is what a lot of people will do is they will try to form the relationship over text message.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to, feeling
Just
of like,
watering it down.
Yeah, like, you start building up perceptions of someone through text message because they can have time to respond or all these things.
They get like beneficial or not.
Yeah, like, and so I just wanted you to know, like, hey, look, we're gonna start just having a conversation over the phone, and I will only call you. So I called you, I remember, and then we got coffee 2 weeks later, which your mom had a tennis tournament in the area that we were in Florida, and so you rode over with her. I picked you up and picked you up at Panera. And then we went to the Seaside and 38 area and did our whole date there.
And it was how long? It was a couple hours.
Yeah. I mean, the first part of it was like, 4 hours, 5 hours?
I thought it was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Something like that. We just explored. We talked so long. We had lunch, sat down for coffee, and we really just started opening up those conversations, like some casual, but also meaningful too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not like, how many kids do you want? But like, what are your dreams? Like, tell me more about you past the surface level, which I think that was really catalytic for both of us.
Mm-hmm. And I remember even like your phone's screensaver. That was a big thing for me I
was going to say, there's so many like God winks within leading us to that moment. And then I think really become evident at this part of the story. So if you're like, I want some more of those nuggets, make sure you're still watching. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, there was good things and there's fun things and there's also like things I needed to get you out of your shell on. But I remember, one, early on in the date, I'll just say this too, which I know you don't like this, is I did try to get her out of her shell because based off of, and this is almost the side of things that you got to look at when you're looking at like meeting someone online and you're trying to move it forward, is I looked at your profile and I saw like, oh, she's a really fun person. And I remember you getting in the car and you were very like shy. You were very kind of quiet into yourself. And I was like, this is not the girl that I see on social media. I'm like, I need to get her out of her shell. And so I put on Call Me Maybe, and I did the Harvard baseball team dance. Yeah, and I did it perfect to a T, just to try to like get you out of your shell. Yeah. And I remember like, she's going to think I'm
introverted. Yeah. And I like to blossom the more you know me.
I know, and that's why I figured it out more and more. But I was trying to like get you to have fun. But then later on with the phone's screensaver was we were at coffee and sitting down having conversations. And what God had put on so heavily on my heart, and still is very heavily on my heart, is the Church of Antioch. And I feel so strongly like we're supposed to build in Antioch and what that's supposed to look like. I don't think it's, exactly what it was there, but I think it's an expression of that. And I knew that was like on my heart in that time period, and that God had continued to cause me to like study about Antioch, learn about Antioch, the people who went there, what it did. And you had a screensaver, and I remember asking you like, hey, what is that screensaver? Because it just looked like some ruins. And you were like, oh, it's actually the Church of Antioch in Turkey. And why did you even have it? I remember.
In that time of when I started praying for my future husband, I just became so much more aware of the Church of Antioch as I was going through, Paul and Barnabas and all of their journey there, the establishment, the first terminology of Christian, which obviously I was like, hey, that's meaningful to me. That's meaningful for faith. And just started doing a research on it. And the same thing, I had no idea what it was, but I felt like building something with Antioch. Yeah. And so I just made it my screensaver because I was like, this is a time where I feel hidden, but I know there's something building, not just for my relationship, but for faith and for legacy.
Yeah.
And so, it's still... So it's fairly recent, but it hit heavy. And
yeah. Well, and I feel like it kind of interconnected those things too.
Yeah.
And then I remember we went obviously for 5 hours. Then it was Easter weekend. I think it was Saturday before Easter, and we were going to an Easter service that night. And so
I went to so my mom dropped me off at the date, and she said, so he meets my mom before he even meets me. And then we go to your parents' house here. So I meet almost all your brothers and your parents. Yep. This is so atypical for a first date. And I was just you can go from there. I just think that's something that does not happen to many people.
It won't. At least nowadays. I mean, hey, in my family, it feels like it's very much like, hey, come on in.
Oh, I know. But like, they're incredible people. And there's so many of them that I'm like, oh, am I... making a good first impression. Yeah. But
then we had that, and then we went to Easter service that night. And then afterwards, I was texting with Christian. You guys I think we were at Whole Foods, and I was like, hey, would you want to go to a movie? And so then I went to a movie with her and her mom that night just to get some additional time.
You want to meet your husband, just bring your mom on your date.
Yeah. And then kind of the next night, I remember, was what kind of really sealed it for me. Because to me, I was like, okay, great girl. Feel like there's intertwining there. But I remember not seeing some of like the for me, like having a mom.
I also had a migraine on the date. So it was also more of the...
Yeah, you were. But I remember not seeing like the hard pressing, like I know what I want. I know what they're going to talk about. Because obviously coming from my mom, I'm like, I'm looking at an example of a woman that's like A-type personality, very driven, really hard. And we got on the phone the next night, and you just started drilling me with all these questions. And I just remember it very clearly. Drill sergeant. No, it was good. It was like, you started asking me all these hard questions that were just kind of like, wow, okay, like, I wasn't expecting any of this. And it was really like made me know. I remember getting off the phone call and just, thinking to myself, okay, I met my future wife. Like, it was a clear decision. It wasn't, oh, we had a great first day. It was amazing. It was magical. I remember for me is like the thing that sealed it was that conversation. Yeah. Just you knowing like, hey, this is what I'm going for. This is what I want right now. Like kind of everything you said and before of like, God, don't tease me onto this. Like, God, I'm seeking and trusting, and I'm going after you right now, and I'm not going to give my heart in a way. And so I saw that very clearly on that conversation. You were like, if you're not answering these questions right away, I don't care what family you come from. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care what this is, but like, I'm going to ask you these questions, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and then
Well, I think I got excited too, seeing how you interacted on our date, but then you get back home after those dates and it is, okay, well, I don't just want to be infatuated. I want to make sure someone's walking the walk, talking the talk. And so in my mind, I was just thinking, okay, Lord, if you're leading me here, let's make sure this guy is what he says he is. And so that was kind of where I was on that part. And when I had left our second first date that same day after the movie, after we had hung out before y'all went to Easter service, I got back in the car with my mom, and she was just like, I think you might have met your future husband. And so there was so much clarity there that I felt like the Lord was prompting it. He was confirming things. And so I just said, I want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence, so I'm not just following a piece I'm contriving or that seems good on paper, but it is actually hard pressed and stirred and tested. So you answered those questions, and we had conversations around like where we really stood, how we were aligned, even maybe things we didn't fully agree on, but were those make or break. And you went back home to Colorado, and then I was still praying, okay, Lord, just show me. I really want to trust you, and I really want to follow your design. And we had a FaceTime phone call sometime after that, really soon after that, and you come on and you say, well, I'll share the vision that I had previously and then explain why it meant so much. But before I'd even met you, and I had this dream where I had just been praying so much for clarity of, Lord, make sure that I'm making the right decisions, really guide me. I just really want your vision. And I know that you are creative. You care about our relationships and our marriage. So will you please illuminate that to me? In one way that God does speak to me is through dreams. So I went to sleep one night and I'm walking out into this area and it's like this back patio and I can still see it so clearly. And I look out and there's all these big, beautiful, like mountainous trees and all these people and they just start clapping. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And I look down and I'm holding hands with someone. I look up and it's this tall, attractive man and he's saying they're here for our engagement. And he's got curly hair and then he puts on his glasses. And I think, well, that's a really attractive man. I don't know if I've seen someone that attractive. And I also don't know someone that wears glasses like that. And so it's just this surreal moment of like, wow, I can trust that this relationship is coming. I'm going to put my trust in that. But also maybe the person I'm going to marry is someone I had never met. And I kind of tucked that away in my heart, not just looking for anyone wearing glasses like, hey, could you be my future husband? But then on that FaceTime call we had shortly after we went back home, we were talking and then all of a sudden you said, hey, let me go put my glasses on. And then as soon as you came back into the frame with the glasses, it was just everything kind of snapped into place of, oh my goodness, I remember that dream. And I'm feeling all these other clarity in these moments. I'm going to trust that that was a prophetic dream that I had. And so there's all of these, I feel like peace and clarity when it comes to a relationship is kind of threefold. It's not just, well, I got one word from this one friend or I get butterflies around this person or they seem good on paper. It's kind of the trifecta of all of those coming about.
Yeah. And trusting God so much that this is such an important decision. Like, God, you'll give those pieces to me. And like, it will all come together. It's not just going to be like, well, maybe this is the right thing. Like, it's like, no, God's going to, you got to trust him and believe and put your faith into it. That's something that we've been talking about like a lot recently of like, you know, putting our faith really, really in God. And what does that actually mean? And I think sometimes like, even for people that you might have a lot of options and you're like, man, I'm trying to find all these options. I'm trying to weed it through. It's like, well, it might be easy for you to feel like, oh, this is super easy to make a decision, but actually might be harder for you to make a decision because you do have options and you're not actually trusting God in those options. And it's kind of going back to that sentiment of, you know, it's easy when it's hard, but it's hard when it's easy. And so it's like when it's hard to, you know, figure those questions out, ask those questions, you feel like, man, I'm in my 30s and I'm single and I don't know what's going on. Like it's might be a little bit easier to really trust God in that. And I know that's me just saying that. And I know that's definitely can feel like it's very hard. And I know it probably is hard, but you're putting your faith back in God, which ultimately in a decision of this manner, you want to see those glimpses. You want to see those little signs from God that is just kind of like putting his fingerprint on this situation and showing you like, look, I'm in this. And this made sense because we had both gone on dates before and we clearly knew like, no, this wasn't right. And this doesn't feel like it's right. It doesn't feel like God's in it. And it was just so evident with us for that. And then after that, we did what? There was 2-3 months of, well, I mean, I guess essentially it was like 5 months, 6 months of long distance relationship.
But with like, dating and engagement,
dating and engagement.
But we dated for 2.5 months.
2.5 months, yeah, basically, which is super fast. But I remember
Tatum, don't get any ideas.
Yeah, no, Tatum's just staying with me forever. She knows that. But there was the big thing that I kept doing is I would make sure I'd write to you, and so I would travel all these different places for ministry. And I would get postcards at every single spot that I went to, and I would write onto it, put it in the mail, and send it off to her. So that was always something that was big. And then I loved that we did get the chance to build our relationship over talking on the phone and FaceTime. I still kept doing the whole like...
I liked it.
Like not texting you that much.
Maybe a few good morning, beautiful texts.
Yeah, but... I think you were probably hoping for more texts from me, but I remember very clearly being like, no, I'm gonna stop texting here. And just understanding, like, I also knew, I think there's the over infatuation that can happen where I was like, I also knew like I had a lot with work and you had a lot with work. And it's like, look, you can trust me. Like, I'm not responding back to you because I'm out here flirting with other people. I'm like, I'm not responding back to you because I'm focusing on the work that I'm doing for the ministry, building sons and daughters back in the day and all those things. And I knew you had things going on as well. And so that was just our standard. And I would call you I think I would normally call you most nights. And then we'd do FaceTime, have conversations. I would do that when I was in the
nights,
hotel.
we wouldn't even do every night, which I very much appreciate. No. I think the weird thing about dating today is well, I think we're good to mimic old school dating, like more of a courting, the family's involved. It's not every night. It's like when you're talking, as you're saying, it's intentional.
Yeah.
It's truly understanding of this is the tone, this is what they mean, this is their dreams. It's
Yeah.
purposeful. And so I very much appreciated that. And then from the perspective of writing letters for my future husband, even while we were dating, thinking, okay, I'm going to still just keep praying for my future husband, not going to confirm it's Arden until, the day that we are walking down the aisle. And so like I'm writing letters to my future husband. He doesn't know that. And then he's sending me letters in the mail. It just felt like this really sweet intertwining moment of, man, he doesn't even know, but on our wedding day, I'm going to give him all these letters that I've been praying over.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I still have my Bible filled with all of those. Still have my Bible that's filled with like letters that you sent me during that time or things I got during that time. And I think I still have the stamps that I was slowly like pulling off and putting onto the different postcards. And so just keeping all those things. And yeah, and the other thing was I had a Bible, like I had all the notes and the letters and even the postage stamps that I would send to you. And I'd put it in that Bible. It had like a little box that the Bible would sit in just to make sure it kept nice and clean when I was traveling. And I still have that. And it still has all those things in it, which I think is always a great reminder of like how we started, and also rooting it so much of like, I put it right next to my Bible. Like, this is important. I'm putting it right here. Yes. Yes.
Well, I love too. I just made this correlation is I just turned 30. Woohoo. And Arden got me such a sweet gift of a typewriter for my 30th birthday, which you can see right here. And then we're just talking about letters and all the significance. And I think of Habakkuk. I always say Habakkuk. I've heard someone say Habakkuk, so didn't know if I was saying it wrong. Of the verse of write the vision and make it clear. And I just think they're so powerful of like, hey, maybe you are praying to find a future spouse, or you are just saying, Lord, I don't want to mess up dating. I don't want to get ahead of myself or be in control where I need to trust you. And so just something about like putting it on paper and like presenting this to God, presenting these hopes, and then meeting it with joy and expectation, I think is so beautiful. Because not to go on a different tangent here, but we see the rise of like mental health and like therapy. And I think some people have such a hard time getting things out of their head and out of their heart and getting to a faith aspect. So for me, I did have that anxiousness of like, am I going to meet anybody in Alabama? Did I just graduate and God's forgotten about me? But something about the spending time in his presence, writing these petitions down, and then just like meeting them with joy and like handing them over to God was such a release for me and was so faith building. So,
well, and then living, like the Bible's so clear about, like, this is why, this is like one way of fighting anxiety within this. The Bible's so clear about, daily bread, living each day daily. Like, God, I'm going to trust in what you provide to me today. Like, you gave us all this manna in the wilderness. It wasn't that we could store it up for tomorrow and what's going to happen tomorrow. It was the daily bread. And that's like one of the best ways, I think, to fight anxiety is to continue to live in the day that God has given you and understand that. And then when you're seeing that in the moment, you're understanding like, okay, look, I'm having this come up. I'm praying into it. And then God, I'm back into my day. I'm back into the things that you have for me. And then the other thing is the Bible talks about taking every single thought captive. So understanding like we need to live in a place where if you're allowing yourself to go down tangents, allowing yourself to build anxiety and all those things, Bible doesn't say just lean into those things or just continue. It says you've got to take those thoughts captive. And the really, really amazing thing about this is it's not something that you actually see people like, oh, okay, I don't deal with that anymore. What you actually see is more that people know how to take thoughts captive. Like I think about my thoughts process. And I'll walk across, I remember I was speaking somewhere and I was walking across the bridge to go to the airport and I had the most random thought about the meeting that came into my mind. And I was like, where in the world did that come from? Like then my mind was never even thinking in that manner. And I just remember in that moment so clearly knowing, oh no, this is a thought I have to take captive. This is the enemy planning something. And I just immediately spoke against it and prayed against it and I was good to go. And so I think that's sometimes what we've got to make sure is understanding. It's like when we feel something well up within us about relationships, about meeting the right person, about even a relationship that you're in, it's like, man, how do I take captive those thoughts? So I am seeing things for what they are and I'm trusting God in a greater manner.
And I know some people watch this video of thinking, hey, if I just watch how Arden and Christian met, maybe that'll tell me how I'm going to meet my future husband. But the thing that I think so clearly, and you'll hear me say this time and time again, is there's so much great wisdom and advice when it comes to relationships, identity, all of those things. But there is no formula for how God connects people. Like you look in the Bible, there's so many different ways, different areas, different timelines, different nations, all the things. And so what's really keen and important is that you are trusting God and how he is leading you specifically, because he is a direct God. He is a gentle God. He is a God that still speaks. And we're even in a season where we were talking yesterday of like, okay, well, we could go this route. We could try this approach. We could do this. Here's the pros and cons of each. And we just said, you know what we need to do? We just need to lay this at God. And we're going to trust that he's going to direct us and he's going to speak to us. And I think that's, the best advice that I can give to you if you're a single woman or man watching this is, okay, do you have peace to continue the relationship of the person you just started seeing? Do you have peace to continue to be single, to get on the app, or like whatever the thing is? Like you're going to have to know that for you. And there's great advice. I hope, that's why we did a podcast, is because we believe in some of that. But I also want you to be led, because it's the end of the day, if we say that God is a God who speaks, God is the one that directs us, who unites our steps, then we're going to have to make that our number one voice in our life. And so, yeah, I hope that this maybe sparks something to show. I think what of our takeaways would you say from our time meeting together?
Yeah, I think the first thing is always looking for God within it. And then I think keeping control over your thoughts is a huge one in terms of don't become over-infatuated too fast. Like, as I talked about, of like me trying to keep it casual and not being the fancy DM or the overly DM, it helped protect my heart and also help protect your heart. And I think that's something really important, to make sure that you are protecting your heart as you're going into something.
Yeah. I feel like you didn't play the dating game. Like you were just yourself and you tried to keep a good cadence.
Yeah. And I'm not saying like let yourself get excited. Let you get excited. Get excited. But I'm just saying,
get dressed up, girl.
Yeah, protect your heart in the ways that you can do. And then I don't know. I mean, I would say that those would be the two big things that I would take away from it. I think you never know what God can do. I mean, I never thought my wife would have just slid in, or I would have slid into my wife's DM and then it just would have happened like that.
And so I think just keep expectation high and like even ask God for dreams and direction. I feel like that's one thing that one comment I've seen a lot is like, well, I can't ask God for dreams because then that's like idolizing it, or like, how do I trust what's from God and what's not? I think if you're continually having other conversations with God, when you're trusting him, you're asking him for things, not just for yourself, like, Lord, give me promptings, give me dreams for other people as well. Then you have this book of pages and consistency with God, where you're like, oh, I can see his fingerprint on that. I can see this one was specific. This wasn't just because I watched a movie and ate chocolate late at night. This is because God's wanting to tell me something. And I just love that part of it, because romance is fun. Romance is fine. But like a God romance in your story is just miraculous. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things within our story that I'm like, it makes sense, but then it also doesn't when you really think about all the little dots that connected. And so I'm just so thankful.
Yeah. I think about this, and just kind of one biblical example, just really quick to end it, is like you were doing the things that you knew God was telling you to do. And then I look at Rebecca, Abraham sends his servant, is it Abraham? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's for Isaac. Yeah, Abraham sends his servant and is like, hey, the woman who feeds up, who gives you water, but not just you water, but all of your camels water. That's one. So here's Rebecca just doing what she knows she's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Like she's just going to the water well. She's doing what she's supposed to do. But yet over here, God's already saying, no, the woman who is doing the thing that she's supposed to be doing the thing that she needs to do, but then has the other side of this, because there probably would have been some women that just would have simply gave him water. The other side of it was the woman who's ready to serve, and has the servant's heart. Her heart has been prepared. She gives the water to his servant, but then she not only gives the water to his servant, she gives the water to all the camels, which, if people don't understand this, feeding a camel, it's like a camel's stomach can hold an insane amount of water. And she didn't just give water to one of the camels. She gave water to all of his camels. And the Bible says that she went down to the well, which means back in those days, it wasn't this pull-up well that they were talking about. It was a well that you would actually walk down loads of stairs, get down to the water, fill up your jar, and then walk all the way back up and then dump it out for the camel. And so she did that trip countless amounts of time.
Probably still to do it for herself and her family too.
Yeah, went over and above. Why? Because what? God had prepared her heart as a servant, as a woman who knew what she was supposed to be doing. And it wasn't that she went out of her way or was prepared by her father. She was just doing the things that she needed to do. And like I said, in a moment, her entire life completely changed. And that's what happened with us, is I feel like we were kind of doing what we knew we were supposed to be doing. And then in a moment, it was like everything just shifted and changed.
Yeah. So if you're in a season where it feels like singleness is monotonous, you're just doing the same thing. You're like, I'm going back and forth to this well every day. Just keep showing up. I feel like in the consistency is where we find that heart preparation and where we find the character being built. And so I hope that this has encouraged you. We're finally getting to do our full How We Met story. Maybe we'll do stuff from our engagement or how to do long distance first year of marriage, how to survive when you move across the country to marry somebody. Whatever you want to hear next, let us know. But we love getting to bring these conversations with you. We have amazing guests that come on and share their testimony. So I hope that you subscribe, that you'll be back. We're here every Thursday. And thank you so much for being part. And thank you, Arden, for being the guy, the dear future husband guy.